Mr. Richard Brown, how you doing today, sir?
Doing well. No complaints on my side.
Richard, I want to know this before we get really too deep into it. Is there something that you see maybe somebody do, possibly a couple, that you can't quite understand why they're doing it and it makes you confused?
Let's see. Okay, this is okay. Well, I probably shouldn't say that. Let's see. Probably dressing the same way when you're not at a sporting event. So if I go to the Thunder game and my wife and I were both having SGA Shane Gilchrist Alexander jerseys on, it's totally fine. But if we're just in the mall shopping and we have matching shirts and shoes and belts, I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, it's fine for them, but I just don't get that. So yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
feels like a follow-up question might be needed in that scenario. You got to just maybe dig a little deeper as to what's going on. For me, Richard, it's similar. It's sharing a meal that's just designed for one person. Like if I see a couple sharing food like that, I'm like, listen, I don't. There's other things to do that you could sort of you share your unity on, and sharing a meal. Just get away from my food. I don't need it. Like one, I need to eat more.
Yeah.
Two, I don't know.
Yeah.
I marvel at somebody that shares, one little entree. But I mean, whatever, they got to do what they got to do. I want to move this over to the world of insurance, and I think an interesting thing that we maybe don't talk about enough, and I'm kind of curious if you've had any examples of sort of dynamics of people that you're talking to in an insurance, relationship, right? Business owners that are partners and sort of their understanding, even if it is a spouse and wife and their understanding on insurance. How do you handle when maybe not everybody is on the same page with the coverages that you're talking about? How do you sort of get everybody to sort of understand and come to the same side?
I think it's more of a discovery process because insurance, in a sense, can be almost like looking when you think you have a medical condition, you go to WebMD and you start getting all this information, so your opinion about it gets distorted. And I think that happens a lot with home and auto insurance. Don't get me wrong, I'm 100% with gaining your own knowledge, but I think all the information at once kind of clouds their judgment a little bit. And sometimes, not all clients, but sometimes it may come in a little more defensive instead of on the offense to really learn. They're like, they have this notion of how insurance should work, but I just kind of help them uncover and kind of give them more of an overview of how based on their situation on how insurance works. Because it's just not black and white. It's a whole lot of moving dynamics when it comes to policy contracts. So trying to find more what they're concerned about and address that. So because it's different with each person. I guess I'm trying to say there's not one size fit all type approach. It just all depends on the person. But so if they had like bad service before, I kind of address how we handle that. If they had a claim that didn't go through, I get some of the particulars about the claim and just try to educate them on why that happened. Because a lot of times I get feedback from clients who are just like, they didn't give me no explanation on why the claim wasn't covered or anything like that. So I think it's just more of an education standpoint on my side.
That's interesting, and I think the one thing that stands out is how long do you think it takes to really get to the bottom of that? Like, I mean, does something pop up to you after the fact? Like how important is it to you to really get to the root cause that's like of what might be bothering them? And have you sort of had it come and sort of sneak up on you after the fact, after you maybe sold the policy and you find out that they're not happy with something?
Right. It all depends on the client. So of course all clients are important, but if it's just a one shot policy, like a motorcycle policy or auto policy, I'm going to have a different approach to that than I would like a full home auto business commercial. So I guess it depends on the type of client. So I don't want to sit there and spin my wheels because at a point, I guess some of the questions I ask, I get to a point of like, yeah, they're more wanting to just express their disconcern or their feelings about the situation and not really find a answer or approach to solve their problem. So at that time, I guess, let it go or say, hey, we may not be a fit. Again, it just depends on, I don't want to say that I'm not appreciative of the business I've received, but it's just more of a case by case situation. And if I see that we're not getting anywhere, I don't want to say do a hard stop, but I'm thinking like, hey, I don't think we're on the same page. I don't know if we're a great fit for you, and just be honest and upfront with the client.
That's a hard thing to do. And I guess how long did it take before you felt comfortable to sort of walk away from a piece of business or something where you're like, nah, this isn't really going the way I think it needs to, and it's probably not going to go the way I want it to at any point in time soon? How long was it before you started to really feel that confidence in your career?
Probably about 2 to 3 year mark in the business. So unless you're handed a book of business or starting with a big agency, my business partner and I, we started from scratch basically. So we were trying to, not the best thing, don't do this, but we were trying to write everything that moves when we originally got into the business, just because we were commission only. We didn't have any base salary or anything like that. So it was probably about year 2 to 3 when I started trimming the fat per se. So because luckily I had a lot of great mentors in the insurance world that was like, hey, you don't want that type of business. It's not good for your books, your loss ratio and everything. So I guess just leaning on them, standing on the shoulder of giants, as the old cliche goes, they were just giving me more of a overview of how to have a better book of business. So it's probably about 2 years into it.
I don't know if I've ever asked you this question, but what led you to you sort of again partnering up with somebody? That's, I mean, because not everybody goes in it from scratch and goes into it with a partner. So what was that experience like for you, sort of coming into it and being intentional with that, and how did you guys make it work?
I started in the captive industry for about 2.5 years. So with that particular company, we had our Series 6, or I mean, our license, our Series 6, 63. We were working on our Series 65, which are investment license. And they were wanting us to do more financial services, eventually become certified financial planners. And we were like, hey, that's not my bread and butter. I wanted to do predominantly commercial, home and auto. And my business partner, Brian Chenard, he was working at the same place. And him and I were one of the few that were there early. We were there late, working on weekends just to make it work. And so anyway, that we started hanging out, and eventually we were like, hey, I don't know if this is, he's like, hey, I don't know if I want to do this forever. We decided to go independent. And one of the reasons I liked teaming up with Brian, him and I, we didn't want to like double dip. We didn't want to be working for one agency as well as starting another business. So we were basically tabula rasa. So we cut our ties with them and everything. So we didn't do any double dipping. And that's one thing I thought it would be a good reason to go into business with him, because we were on the same page. We didn't want to grow another book of business based while we're working with someone else. So, but it was tough. It was challenging, but it worked out. The only thing I regret is we didn't do it earlier. That's the only regret I have, is that I didn't start in the independent side earlier.
So, I mean, it's a slightly vulnerable thing to sort of put yourself out there to somebody else and say, hey, I'm thinking like, this seems like it might be fun, because it's a big, huge, giant risk in a lot of cases. Is there any tips you have to somebody that might be sitting in that captive agency, like looking at somebody across the desk, saying, hey, maybe this is my next, future partner? Is there anything that you sort of like, how did you guys find your way to that partnership, and really, how did you just, kind of let caution to the wind and say, like, we're going to do this together?
I think we were just a good fit. This is what I tell a lot of people. My business partner, he's more of like a Marine in a sense. Like, he's gung ho. He wants to go in, you know what I mean, just attack everything. I'm more of a sniper. I'm more calculated. I have to see the big picture and everything. So that dynamic, I think it works, because if I'm moving too slow, he kinds of help push me along. And if he's moving too fast, I kind of hold him. I kind of like, hey, we need to look at this type of a scenario. And I think that works. And just with his work ethic, the family values he had, and some other things, I just thought it was a good fit. We were always transparent with one another. This is the probably one of the most negative things I'll say about a partnership is like, if you can't be in a disagreement at 9 and then go to lunch at noon to talk about the business, you should be in business, because the business has to keep going no matter what. You can't let the feelings get in the way or whatever, if that makes sense. So
you said something that I thought was interesting, of like, you wish you would have done it sooner. And I'm kind of curious of where you're at now. And do you feel like you've been able to, I don't want to say catch up, but do you feel good with where you guys have at? Like, where are you looking to take the business? Like, what's like is there something that you're kind of at that point of, man, I really wish we would have done this sooner, or like, man, I can't wait till we get here? Like, what's kind of itching you right now?
Besides getting to the business earlier, the only other thing I would have wish we would have done earlier was get staff, get assistants to help us process the paperwork and everything. So, but yeah, we're in a good position now. We continually grow each year. We actually open up another arm of a business in the Medicare, so we're kind of diversifying things a little bit. But I think we're on the right path. We're slow and steady. We're not the biggest agency on the block, but we're not the smallest. But I think we're growing right. What I see us in 5-10 years is bringing on more agents on the Medicare side as well as the P&C side, and just slow and steady wins the race, as the old cliche goes. So.
And is that something are those conversations you guys like to have of sort of setting benchmarks for the agency? Like, how do you guys like to, sort of plan things out? Like, how detailed are you? Like, what does it look like for you guys?
Yeah. Like my business partner, in December, we kind of get together and kind of go look over last year's numbers and just determine if we want to hire more with staff or more agents, and how we're going to work on retention. So yeah, in December, him and I, we have a 2 or 3 hour meeting, and just kind of, and plus his office is right across the door. So we talk more than just 2 hours once a year, but we're always discussing it. So if there's something new, we try not to chase the shiny object. We try not to have the shiny object syndrome, but we're always trying to see how we can improve our agency, if it's with retention, with customer service, automation, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, we're pretty we're pretty hands on. I guess we try to balance that. You can't have growth. You can either have control or growth, and so we're trying to. I guess we're always
Yeah.
trying to navigate that, balance that out, if that makes sense.
I want to come back to the customer service and like the automation piece and kind of see what you guys are doing there, what you find to be successful. But I have to ask this: of is there something that you didn't chase that you're glad that you didn't get distracted by, like something that that was a trend or something that you almost sort of went down a path of?
No, not off the top of my head. No, there's nothing.
Well, which then let's try the other side of that. Is the what path have you found to be most beneficial? Like what has worked the best for you guys? Like what area of the business have you? Like you said, you are working your way into the Medicare a little bit. Is there a side on the commercial that you really sort of dug into? Is there anything that you have found to be sort of the X factor that really sort of got you guys humming?
Yes, ours is our staff. Like all our staff, we tried the whole job board situations, and that never worked out. But all our staff and our agents that we have now have been through personal relationships that we knew through people that referred to us and everything. So I think that's the best. It sounds a little cliche, but we ask the friends that are centers of influence if they know anyone, clients that we really love. We ask them if they have any friends or family that are looking to get into this particular business and everything. So that's probably the best thing that's happened with us. Great relationships with the friends and family, and asking them if they know anyone that wants to work in this industry.
I would imagine that would trickle over into, like you had mentioned, the customer service sides of things and sort of the way you guys do things. Is there any specific direct approach there as to how you bring people in, what you find works best to sort of get them in and help them stay and be engaged in the agency?
I think just the onboarding process, where, like for instance, someone's referred to me, my staff will get the proposals together. I'll review it with them, and then follow up emails when we close the policy. I'll introduce them to our team members. Their policy access. I think we're just proactive in making the client know that there's many ways to get hold of us, as well as to access their own documents and everything. Just and we do the drip campaigns, of course, and just try to keep them in the loop. So
Yeah, do you find on the, like you said, on the automation, the drip, is there anything that you find is more successful? Like, is there one, like if you had to take one, like what's the one that you're going to make sure that you're doing?
with us, it's just notifying the client about the upcoming renewals, because with the type of market we're in, just letting them know that, hey, Joey, your policy is set to renew in 45 minutes. Our team is proactively looking over current proposals to make sure you have the best value. We always don't lead with price. We always say the best overall value for your insurance portfolio. And I just think staying ahead of the renewals when they receive them, because there's a lot of sticker shock going on right now. So I just think being proactive and letting them know the state of the industry, and that we're always looking out for them. So
I guess that you mentioned it. You said you guys sit down about every December. Is there any sneak peek you can give me onto that little meeting? Like what's on, like got a little list that you've been making as the stuff that you guys are going to be talking about? Like what's something that you're hoping to kind of maybe look to pursue in 24?
grow our Medicare side quite a bit more. So grow our Medicare side, get a few more agents in here, and that's just to diversify a little more. And we're kicking around. We probably need another. The buzzword going around now is retention specialist. We probably need a retention specialist as well. So although our staff is awesome on keeping up on top of that, but someone specifically designated on retention and marketing will be a great benefit for us. So.
It is interesting how these job titles become fancy and buzzwordy.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
I thought those were the service person, but hey, we can make it sound fancy though.
Yes.
Do you think that there's any benefit to that though? I mean, in terms of like, I mean, I don't know if you guys have a specific way that your employees' roles or titles or whatever, but does it work? I guess maybe that's a question of, does that matter? Does somebody feel like any more empowered or valued at work based on like what they think they're doing based on their title or anything, or is it just?
It varies. There's some of our staff in the past, they were like, I don't care about names, and there's some that they really like that title. So I think it's a case by case scenario, but if we get that vibe that they like that, we do sign different titles to it and everything. But our office manager, she's awesome, and she likes the term office manager. So we have that on her plaque, the door, her emails and everything. She loves it. So her name's Tammy. So yeah, she loves the title and everything. So but she's excellent at it. So she's great at it. So
Yeah, I mean, you'd wonder if it, again, like you said, retention specialist, it helps maybe bring a little, I guess, focus, clarity potentially to the whole thing.
right.
Like, hey, listen, this is what I'm here to do. I'm going to retain I'm a specialist and I'm retaining the business. Is that something that maybe do you guys feel like you've given it a decent enough focus to, or you just want more bodies, you want more people, more eyes on it, I guess, than you currently have,
Yeah,
or
I think it's more eyes on it and everything. And then with the workflows with our other staff members, sometimes they may be overwhelmed at that point and someone to help them as well. So I think we definitely need new, even if they are retention specialists slash customer service specialists, et cetera, like a mixture of both, maybe like 50-50. But I think it's definitely needed. I think it's definitely needed, especially with the times that we're in right now.
So if you had to give one piece of advice to, again, maybe that person that is in a similar situation to where you were, a captive agency that's looking to go out on their own, what's the one thing you'd say to that person to maybe make them feel a little bit more comfortable and maybe taking that first step, and maybe if they need a partner or not, like what's the thing that stands out to you?
Well, there's a few things. Like before I got started, I went and talked to a few different independent agents. Some independent agents that was a smaller, mid-size, and then the large size, to get their perspective, because you're going to fall within that realm. So I would learn the good and bad about each agents you're talking to, and just kind of get their overview of the good and bad. So, and I think that's the best. Just someone that's been in the ditches, if that makes sense. So, but the independent side, yeah, the only thing I regret is that I didn't go independent when I initially got into insurance. But don't get me wrong, on the captive side, I had some great training and everything. I think the independent side is the way to go. So, but I eventually think that all carriers will be um, independent eventually. So,
Richard, I got three more questions for you, sir.
okay.
And the first one is, what's one thing you hope you never forget?
Within the insurance world or just life in general?
There are no rules, so Richard, you can take it however you want.
Let's see here. And this may sound a little cliche, is that you're not alone and you have no idea what someone may be going through. So, because no matter what situation I came through, there was always a resource, meaning a friend in the insurance industry or someone that would able to help me walk through the process if it was brand new to me. So
now, on the other side of that, Richard, what's one thing you still have yet to learn?
that whole balance, I kind of touched on it earlier, the whole balance of control and growth. I may be a little too hands-on sometime, and I need to let it go. So, and I'm not saying just overseeing everything. I'm just I want you to think I'm a control freak, but just I guess have more trusting myself when I'm trusting other people to do things. So yeah.
All right, Richard, last question to you, sir. If I were
Mhm.
to hand you a magic wand of sorts to reshape, change, alter, speed up, really any part of insurance, what's that thing? Where is it going? And what's it doing?
Well, with our we have great insurance companies, but I wish they would just be a little more transparent and on, especially with the nature that we're in, on educating the clients on why their rates are increasing. Don't get me wrong, the agents, we definitely do it, but uh, instead of doing funny commercials about dogs or cats kicking field goals, they should do something about, hey, this is the market we're in. Yeah, will someone not watch? More likely they wouldn't watch it, but it just, I don't know, it just more education to our clients to let them know that this is why the rates have increased. This is plywood was $16 a piece whenever before the shutdown, and now it's $50 a piece. So just more more education on why the rates are going up, because our clients are simply getting a letter saying, hey, your rates have increased 30% or 30. I'm just giving an example there. Just to educate our consumer base a lot more.
Richard, this has been fantastic, sir. I'm going to leave it right there.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.